The Forbidden Galaxy. Captain Erevan Talis stood at the viewport of the research vessel Astral Seeker, his violet eyes reflecting the shimmering quantum barrier that separated the known universe from the forbidden Milky Way galaxy. His scaled fingers tapped nervously on the metallic console as he contemplated the enormity of what they were about to do. "Are you certain about this, Captain?" First Officer Navarra asked, her translucent skin pulsing with concerned bioluminescence. "The Galactic Concord has forbidden entry to this galaxy for over 8,000 cycles. The Concord forbids many things without explanation," Erevan replied, his four nostrils flaring slightly. "But these transmissions we've detected, they defy everything we know about cosmic development patterns." The Astral Seeker was the most advanced scientific vessel in the Valerian fleet, equipped with instruments capable of detecting quantum fluctuations across vast distances. For the past cycle, they had been monitoring unusual energy signatures emanating from within the Quarantine galaxy, energy signatures that suggested technological advancement far beyond what should be possible for a young stellar system. Science Officer Zenith approached, her hover pad gliding silently across the polished deck. Her species had evolved beyond the need for legs millions of years ago, replacing them with a sophisticated gravitational manipulation organ. "The barrier thins in this sector, Captain," she reported, her voice a melodic hum. "Our calculations suggest we can slip through with minimal quantum disruption if we modulate our shields to match the barrier's frequency." Erevan nodded, his decision made long before this moment. The entire crew of 34 had volunteered for this mission, knowing full well that they would face exile or worse if the Concord discovered their transgression. But curiosity, that marvelous, dangerous trait that had propelled the Valerians to galactic prominence, demanded answers. "Prepare for boundary crossing," he ordered. "Engage stealth protocols and divert all non-essential power to the quantum harmonizers." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their various appendages manipulating the bioorganic interfaces of the ship's systems. The Astral Seeker wasn't a military vessel. It carried only minimal defensive capabilities, but it possessed the most sophisticated cloaking technology in known space. Crossing point reached in 3 minutes, Navigation Officer Trisk announced, his bulbous eyes swiveling independently to monitor multiple displays. "Quantum resonance stable. Probability of detection by Concord satellites, approximately 7.3%. Erevan settled into his command chair, which adapted to his body's contours. "Begin final approach. Record everything. Whatever we find in there, the truth deserves to be known." The Astral Seeker glided toward the shimmering barrier, its sleek hull designed to minimize quantum wake. As they approached, the viewports automatically adjusted to filter the intense radiation that marked the boundary between galaxies. Crossing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A momentary sensation of displacement washed over the crew, as if they had been simultaneously stretched across infinite space and compressed into a single point. The lights flickered, and several non-critical systems went offline momentarily. "Status report," Erevan demanded once the disorientation passed. "Quantum drive functioning at 82% efficiency," Engineering Officer Vex reported, his tentacles moving across multiple control surfaces. "Minor fluctuations in the power grid, but nothing critical. Stealth systems operational." "We've made it, Captain," Navarra confirmed, a mixture of relief and apprehension in her voice. "We are now within the Milky Way galaxy." Erevan allowed himself a moment of triumph. In 8 millennia, no Valerian vessel had deliberately entered this region of space. Historical records spoke of ancient explorers who had ventured here, only to return with warnings of terrible dangers. Those warnings had eventually led to the Concord's decision to quarantine the entire galaxy, establishing automated defense systems to prevent entry or exit. Yet here they were, defying thousands of years of prohibition. "Begin passive scans," he ordered. "Let's see what secrets this galaxy has been keeping." The scientific team went to work immediately, their specialized equipment cataloging radiation patterns, gravitational anomalies, and the complex dance of star systems unique to this galaxy. For several hours, they collected data, their excitement growing as they confirmed that this galaxy possessed unusual characteristics, particularly in its development of heavy elements and quantum reactive materials. "Captain," Communications Officer Silas called, her crystalline form refracting light, as she turned toward him. "I'm detecting an artificial transmission. It appears to be a repeating signal using primitive radio waves. Location: a planetary system approximately 0.7 light jumps from our current position. The signal is not directed at us. It seems to be a general broadcast. Can you decode it?" Silas's crystalline structure pulsed with effort. It's simplistic, binary code arranged in mathematical sequences, almost certainly an indicator of technological intelligence, though quite rudimentary. Erevan considered this. The Concorde's quarantine protocols were clear: no contact with any intelligence within the Forbidden Galaxy. But they had already broken the most important rule by crossing the barrier. A little more information gathering couldn't worsen their situation. "Plot a course," he decided. "Maintain stealth protocols and approach at half impulse. We'll observe from a distance." The Astral Seeker altered course, its quantum drives humming quietly as it accelerated toward the source of the transmission. They would need only a few hours to reach it at their current speed, an insignificant journey compared to the massive transgression they had already committed. What they didn't expect was the catastrophic drive failure that occurred just 30 minutes into their journey. "Captain." Vex's alarm pheromones filled the bridge with a sharp, acrid scent. "Quantum matrix destabilizing. Primary drive collapse imminent. Emergency shutdown." Erevan ordered, but it was too late. The ship lurched violently as the quantum drive imploded, creating a momentary pocket of distorted spacetime within the engine compartment. Warning signals flashed across every console as the lights dimmed to emergency levels. "Primary drive failure," Vex reported, his tentacles moving frantically across the diagnostic panel. Switching to auxiliary power. The backup systems engaged, but Erevan knew they faced a serious problem. The auxiliary drives could maintain life support and basic functions, but they lacked the power needed to cross the quantum barrier again. Without repairs to the primary drive, they were trapped in forbidden space. "Damage report," Erevan ordered, his voice calm despite the gravity of their situation. Reports flooded in from across the ship. The quantum matrix, the heart of their propulsion system, had suffered a catastrophic collapse. The cause remained unclear, but the result was undeniable. The Astral Seeker couldn't leave the Milky Way. Options. Erevan asked his senior staff after calling them to the command center. First Officer Navarra spoke first. "We have supplies for 60 days if we reduce consumption, perhaps 80. "The drive?" Erevan asked, looking at Engineer Vex. Vex's skin had dulled to a sickly gray. "The quantum matrix has completely destabilized. We lack the specialized materials to rebuild it. Such repairs would normally require a space dock and support vessels." "Our location?" Erevan turned to Navigation Officer Trisk. "We're approximately 2 light jumps inside the boundary," Trisk reported. "The nearest star system, the one emitting the transmission, is about 0.5 light jumps from our position." Erevan considered their situation. "Can we reach that system using auxiliary power?" Trisk calculated briefly. "Yes, but it would take nearly 20 days at maximum auxiliary speed. And we have no data on what awaits us there," reminded Security Chief Lurin, whose exoskeleton clicked nervously. "Remember why we're here. This entire galaxy is off-limits for a reason." Silence fell over the group as the reality of their situation sank in. They were stranded in prohibited space, their mission of quick observation now impossible. Every option carried significant risk. "What about the distress beacon?" suggested Science Officer Zenith. Security Chief Lurin frowned. "Using it would alert the Concorde to our violation. We would face severe punishment upon rescue, assuming they even came for us." "If they came for us," corrected First Officer Navarra. The Concorde might decide it's safer to leave us here than risk sending more ships into prohibited space. Erevan looked at each of his crew members. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing the dangers, but none had expected to be stranded with no way home. Their lives now hung in the balance, with limited options before them. We will proceed methodically, Erevan decided. First, continue attempts to repair the drive. Second, maintain passive scans of the nearby system. Perhaps there are resources we can use. Third, prepare the distress beacon, but do not activate it yet. The crew nodded in agreement, finding comfort in having a plan despite their dire circumstances. Over the next 3 days, Engineer Vex and his team worked tirelessly on the drive, while Science Officer Zenith's team studied the nearby star system. Their scans revealed a yellow star with 8 planets, the third of which showed signs of a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere and liquid water. On the 4th day, with repair efforts showing little progress, Erevan made his decision. He gathered the crew once more. "We have 2 choices," he stated plainly. "Activate the distress beacon and face Concorde justice, or use our remaining power to reach the nearby system and search for materials to repair our ship." The crew exchanged glances, weighing their options. The Concorde might never come, Navarra reminded them, and the nearby system might contain the very dangers the Concorde warns about, countered Loren. After much discussion, they reached a compromise. They would activate the distress beacon while simultaneously setting course for the nearby system. It was a desperate gamble, but it gave them the best chance of survival. As the Astral Seeker's auxiliary engines hummed to life, and the distress beacon began broadcasting its repeating signal into the void, Captain Erevan looked out at the stars of the forbidden galaxy. Whatever secrets the Milky Way held, he and his crew would soon discover them, whether they wished to or not. 7 days into their journey toward the mysterious signal, Communications Officer Silas detected a new transmission, this one directed specifically at their vessel. "Captain," she called, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "I'm receiving a directional transmission in multiple frequencies. It's a response to our distress beacon." The bridge crew froze, their various sensory organs focused on Silas. "The transmission contains mathematical sequences similar to our own universal communication protocols," she continued. "It's an attempt at communication. Can you decipher it?" Erevan asked, his heart beating rapidly. "Partially. It appears to be coordinates and approach vectors." Silas sounded astonished. "I believe someone is offering assistance." Before Erevan could respond, Navigation Officer Trisk called out, "Captain, I'm detecting an object approaching at high speed." The crew snapped to attention, exhaustion forgotten as they rushed to their stations. "On screen," ordered Erevan. The main display activated, showing a small blip moving rapidly toward their position. The object changed course with remarkable precision, clearly under intelligent control. "It's a ship," confirmed Trisk, "unlike any design in our database." Security Chief Lurin immediately activated defensive protocols, though everyone knew their damaged vessel could offer little resistance if the approaching ship proved hostile. "Are they responding to our beacon?" asked First Officer Navarra. "Unknown," replied Silas, "but their course adjustment suggests they detected us." The unknown vessel slowed as it approached, coming to a relative stop approximately 5,000 meters from the Astral Seeker, now visible through the viewport. Its design was indeed unlike anything the Valerians had encountered, sleek and angular, with sections that seemed to flow into each other rather than being clearly segmented as Concorde vessels were. "They're scanning us," reported Science Officer Zenith, studying the sensor readings. Thorough but non-invasive scans. Erevan straightened his posture. "This is it," he said quietly. "First contact with whatever the Concorde feared." "Captain," called Silas, "they're hailing us. Audio and visual transmission." Erevan took a deep breath. "Accept the transmission." The main screen flickered, and the bridge crew of the Astral Seeker found themselves looking at beings they had never seen before. The aliens were bipedal, with 2 arms and a head situated atop a vertical torso. Their skin tones ranged from light beige to dark brown, and their heads featured hair in various colors and styles. They wore matching dark blue uniforms with insignia the Valerians couldn't recognize. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Alliance vessel Pathfinder," said one of the aliens in a clear, confident voice. "We received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" Through the universal translator, the words came through clearly, though the concept they conveyed was almost incomprehensible to Erevan. No species in known space would offer assistance to unknown aliens without extensive protocols and quarantine procedures. Yet these beings, these humans, had responded to their distress call without hesitation. "I am Captain Erevan Talis of the research vessel Astral Seeker," he responded, deciding that honesty was their best course. "We've suffered a catastrophic drive failure and are stranded in your region of space." The human captain's expression showed what Erevan recognized as concern. "We can provide technical assistance and supplies. Our engineers are skilled with various propulsion systems." Erevan exchanged glances with his first officer. This was unprecedented. Either these humans were incredibly naive, or they possessed a level of technological confidence that bordered on hubris. "That is most generous," Erevan replied cautiously. "However, I must inform you that our presence here is unauthorized. We crossed the boundary in violation of our laws." Captain Rice tilted her head slightly. "Boundary? I'm not familiar with any boundary." And with those simple words, Erevan realized that the humans didn't know. They didn't know they were quarantined. They didn't know that an ancient galactic civilization had deemed their entire galaxy off-limits. The revelation shook him to his core. What else didn't they know? And more importantly, what had the Concord been hiding about humanity for 8,000 years? The awakening force. The docking procedure between the Astral Seeker and the human vessel Pathfinder proceeded with unexpected smoothness. Captain Rice had dispatched engineering teams equipped with universal adapters and scanning tools that demonstrated technological sophistication well beyond what Erevan had expected from a supposedly isolated species. "Your ship's design is fascinating," stated Chief Engineer Marcus Chen as he studied the Valerian quantum drive with obvious fascination. "The bioorganic interfaces are particularly elegant. We have similar technology, but yours has evolved along a different path." Engineer Vex's tentacles twitched with surprise at the human's casual competence. "You understand our propulsion system?" Chen nodded, his eyes never leaving the damaged quantum matrix. "The principles are similar to our phase shift drives, though you've approached quantum alignment from a different theoretical foundation." "Brilliant work, actually." Erevan watched this exchange from nearby, his mind racing. In a few hours, the humans had not only understood their alien technology, but had begun formulating repair solutions. This was not the behavior of a primitive species that needed to be quarantined. "Captain Talis," Elena Rice approached, offering a datapad. "My engineers believe they can synthesize a replacement for your quantum matrix using our fabrication systems. It won't be identical to your original component, but it should allow you to return to your territory." Erevan accepted the pad, noting how the interface had already been adapted to Valerian physiology. "This is remarkably generous, Captain Rice. I must ask, have your people encountered other species before?" A shadow passed over the human's face. "Yes, though not all encounters have been as peaceful as this one. The galaxy is complicated." Before Erevan could probe further, Security Chief Lurin approached urgently. "Captain, long-range sensors have detected a quantum disturbance at the boundary. Something large has crossed into this galaxy." Erevan felt his scales tighten against his body, a primitive fear response. "The Concord?" "Unknown," Lurin replied. "But the energy signature doesn't match standard Concord configurations." Captain Rice had been listening with growing concern. "If I may ask, what exactly is this Concord you keep mentioning? And what boundary did you cross to enter our galaxy?" Erevan hesitated, then made a decision. These humans had offered help without conditions. They deserved the truth. The Galactic Concord is an alliance of 27 advanced species that governs much of the known universe, he explained. 8,000 cycles ago, approximately 12,000 of your Earth years, the Concord declared your entire galaxy off-limits. A quantum barrier was established to prevent entry or exit, and the existence of your species has been classified information ever since. Elena's expression hardened. You're saying we've been quarantined without our knowledge or consent? Yes, Erevan admitted. The reasons have been lost to history or deliberately obscured. The official explanation speaks of preserving cosmic balance and containing volatile elements, but many suspect the truth is more complex. And you violated this quarantine because curiosity, Erevan said simply. We detected unusual energy signatures emanating from your solar systems, signatures that suggested technological advancement far beyond what should be possible for a galaxy believed to be developmentally isolated. Elena processed this information with remarkable composure. Well, that explains a lot. We've been exploring space for centuries, pushing farther into the galaxy with each generation. We've occasionally encountered strange phenomena at the edge of our explored space, areas where our ships couldn't proceed, or where instruments failed inexplicably. The conversation was interrupted by Communications Officer Silas. Captain, the unknown vessel approaching the barrier has responded to our distress beacon. They're claiming to be archivists. Erevan's blood ran cold. The archivists were a semi-mythical faction within the Concord, ancient beings who supposedly preserved the oldest knowledge and enforced the most sacred laws. If they had come in response to the beacon, the situation was far more serious than a simple border violation. Captain Reyes, Erevan said urgently, we may have inadvertently brought danger to your people. The vessel approaching is operated by entities with considerable power and ancient authority. Rather than showing fear, the human captain's expression became determined. Then we should prepare to meet them. Your ship isn't space-worthy yet, and we won't leave you defenseless. You don't understand, Erevan insisted. The archivists don't negotiate with those who violate fundamental Concord laws. They enforce. Helena smiled grimly. Captain Tallis, humanity has a long history of dealing with those who believe their authority is absolute. Let's at least hear what these archivists have to say. 12 hours later, the archivist vessel entered sensor range, a massive, crystalline structure that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime. It dwarfed both the Astral Seeker and the Pathfinder, its presence alone generating gravitational distortions. They're hailing us, reported Silas, her crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. Open a channel, Erevan ordered. Visual and audio. The view screen flickered, and a being materialized, or at least the projection of a being. It appeared as a shifting, luminous form, vaguely humanoid in shape, but composed of what seemed to be pure energy contained within an ancient ornate armor. Vessel Astral Seeker, the being spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds, rather than through the ship's audio systems. You have violated the Omega Prohibition. Your existence is forfeit. Captain Reyes stepped forward, her posture defiant. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Alliance. The Astral Seeker is under our protection. State your identity and purpose. The luminous form seemed to flicker with what might have been surprise. Human, your species was not meant to achieve space travel. The containment was designed to prevent this. Yet here we are, Elena replied evenly. And we've been exploring our galaxy for centuries without encountering any reason why we should be contained. The reason, the archivist stated, is now awakening. Your presence in space, your technological emissions, have accelerated the process. The ancient enemy stirs. Erevan's scientific curiosity overcame his fear. What ancient enemy? The Concord records speak only of preserving cosmic balance. The archivist's form expanded slightly. The Concord is young. The archivists remember what came before. 12 of your millennia ago, We detected a dormant consciousness embedded in the fabric of your galaxy, a parasitic intelligence that absorbs technological species and uses their knowledge to propagate. Your galaxy was quarantined not to protect the universe from you, but to protect you from it, and to prevent it from spreading should it awaken. Science Officer Zenith moved forward, a parasitic intelligence embedded in spacetime itself. That's theoretically possible but would require. It is not theory, the archivist interrupted. It is history. The entity has consumed 17 galaxies before we managed to contain it. Your species, humans, possess unusual mental patterns that render you partially resistant to its influence, which is why your galaxy was chosen as its prison rather than being destroyed. The implications were staggering. The quarantine hadn't been about suppressing humanity. It had been protecting them. If this entity is awakening, Captain Rice asked, what can be done? Nothing, the archivist stated flatly. The containment is failing. We have come to extract valuable knowledge before sterilizing this galaxy. The cold, clinical way the being spoke of genocidal destruction sent a wave of horror through Erevan. He looked at the humans on the bridge, who had shown his crew nothing but generosity and assistance. There must be another solution, he insisted. The calculations are absolute, the archivist replied. The entity cannot be allowed to spread. 12,000 years ago, we lacked the means to destroy it completely. We still do. Containment was our only option then. Sterilization is our only option now. Captain Reyes stepped forward, her expression determined. You're talking about the extinction of trillions of sentient beings across our galaxy. That's not a solution. That's an atrocity. It is necessity, the archivist corrected. The alternative is the consumption of all technological life in the universe. The equation is simple. Life is never a simple equation, Elena countered. You say humans have unusual mental patterns that resist this entity. Then help us fight it directly instead of simply destroying everything. For a moment, the luminous form seemed to consider this. Fighting it directly has never been attempted. The risk of failure is incalculable. And the cost of not trying is unacceptable, Elena insisted. At least give us the chance to save ourselves. Science Officer Zenith suddenly interrupted. Captain, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the ship. Something is scanning our database, accessing our historical archives. The archivist's form brightened. Interesting. Your records contain reference to experimental quantum resonance technology designed to disrupt parasitic information patterns. This approach was theorized by archivist predecessors, but never implemented. You're reading our database, Erevan asked, alarmed. Knowledge flows where it is needed, the archivist replied cryptically. Perhaps there is a small probability of an alternative approach. Over the next 72 hours, an unprecedented collaboration formed between the Valerian scientists, human engineers, and the ancient archivist. Using the Pathfinder's advanced fabrication systems and theoretical knowledge from both species, they developed a quantum resonance transmitter designed to disrupt the parasitic entity's information patterns. The plan was dangerous. They would need to approach the center of the galaxy, where the entity was most concentrated, and activate the device directly. There was no guarantee of success, and the archivist made it clear that sterilization remained the backup plan should they fail. This is suicide, Security Chief Lurin stated bluntly as they prepared the modified vessel. We're trusting the word of a being that was prepared to annihilate an entire galaxy moments ago. Sometimes the only choices available are bad ones, Captain Rice replied. But I've reviewed the science with my team. This plan has merit, and it's the only chance to save billions of lives. Erevan had made his decision long before this moment. My crew and I will accompany the mission. Our violation of the quarantine contributed to this crisis. We should help resolve it. The journey to the Galactic Center took 17 days, even with the enhanced drives provided by the archivist. As they traveled, the effects of the awakening entity became increasingly apparent. Communication systems on planets they passed experienced unusual disruptions, and several automated stations they encountered showed signs of reprogramming toward unknown purposes. When they finally reached their destination, the sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The galactic core pulsed with energy that shouldn't have been there, patterns too regular to be natural, too complex to be random. "It's beautiful," whispered Science Officer Zenith as they observed the swirling patterns of light and energy. "Many dangerous things are," the archivist replied, its form seeming more solid this close to the entity. "It feeds on appreciation before it feeds on minds. Maintain your focus." The quantum resonance transmitter, a strange hybrid of Valerian bioorganic technology, human quantum engineering, and archivist ancient science, was ready. The device would broadcast a specialized frequency designed to disrupt the entity's information patterns and force it into dormancy once more. "Once activated, we will have approximately 3 minutes to evacuate before the quantum backlash destroys this vessel," the archivist explained. "The entity will resist." Captain Rice looked at her crew, then at the Valerians who had inadvertently brought this crisis to light. "I'm staying to ensure the transmitter remains operational for the full cycle. The rest of you should evacuate in the shuttles." "Elena." "No," protested Chief Engineer Chen. "The automatic systems could fail under the entity's influence," she finished for him. "We can't risk it." "That's an order, Marcus." Erevan stepped forward. "I will stay as well. As will my first officer. Our ship caused this. Our people should bear the risk." The evacuation proceeded quickly, with most crew members departing in shuttles. Only Captain Rice, Erevan, First Officer Navarra, and the archivist remained aboard. Initiating quantum resonance in 3, 2, 1. Elena activated the device. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The ship's systems flickered as waves of energy pulsed from the transmitter. Outside, the organized patterns at the galactic core began to destabilize, shifting from purposeful movements to chaotic swirls. "It's working," the archivist confirmed, its form fluctuating wildly. "The entity's information patterns are degrading." But success came with a price. The ship shuddered violently as systems began to fail throughout the vessel. "Power fluctuations exceeding safety parameters," reported Navarra, her bioluminescence flaring with stress. "We have less than 2 minutes before core breach. The shuttles won't clear the blast radius in time," Elena realized, checking the tactical display. "We need more time." Erevan saw only one solution. "We can divert power from life support to strengthen the containment field around the shuttles. It would give them the extra minute they need." "But we'd have less than 30 seconds of air," Elena noted grimly. "A worthy exchange," Erevan decided. As they worked together to reroute the power systems, Erevan found himself reflecting on the irony of their situation. He had broken the quarantine out of curiosity, a desire to know what secrets the Concord had been keeping. Now he understood. The secret wasn't about containing humanity, it was about protecting them. And now, a Valerian and a human, representatives of species that had been kept apart for millennia, were working together to save both their peoples. "Diversion complete," Elena announced. "Shuttles will clear the danger zone." The life support systems wound down, and the artificial gravity began to fail. As the three of them floated in the command center, watching the entity's patterns continue to degrade on the monitors, the archivist's form suddenly expanded. "Your sacrifice is noted," it stated, its mental voice softer than before. "Perhaps our predecessors were incorrect about isolation being the only path. Cooperation has proven unexpectedly effective." With those words, the archivist's form enveloped them, creating a bubble of sustainable environment as the ship disintegrated around them. 3 days later, a joint council of human leaders and Concord representatives gathered aboard the archivist vessel. The quarantine of the Milky Way had been officially lifted, and discussions of alliance rather than isolation were underway. Captain Erevan Tallis, still recovering from the ordeal, stood beside Captain Elena Reyes as they addressed the assembled dignitaries. Our violation of the quarantine was technically a crime, Erevan acknowledged, but it led to the discovery that isolation is not the answer to cosmic threats. Cooperation is. Elena nodded in agreement. Humanity has always believed that diversity brings strength. Different perspectives, different technologies, different approaches. Together, they solved a problem that none could solve alone. The archivist, now serving as mediator between the Concord and humanity, concluded the session with words that would be recorded in the histories of both civilizations. For 12 millennia, we believed protection required separation. We were wrong. The entity is dormant once more, but this time, contained through cooperation rather than isolation. Perhaps this is the beginning of a new approach to cosmic challenges, one where boundaries are crossed not out of defiance, but out of the recognition that some dangers can only be faced together. As the council session ended, Erevan approached Elena privately. "What will your people do now that the galaxy is open to you?" She smiled, her eyes reflecting the stars visible through the vast viewport. "Explore, learn, connect. What else is there?" Indeed, Erevan agreed, his own curiosity, that dangerous, wonderful trait, burning brighter than ever. What else is there? The barrier that had separated their civilizations for 12,000 years was gone. The Milky Way was no longer off limits, and humanity had proven itself not as a danger to be contained, but as an ally in facing the greatest threats the universe could present. Sometimes, Erevan reflected, breaking the rules led to the greatest discoveries of all.